This episode of My Cat's Tale, George, the Stourbridge station cat.
He is exceptionally cheeky, very, very affectionate and very, very hungry. He poses. He absolutely poses for pet photographs, I'm sure of it. That's what I try to do with this page, show a little bit of railway life and just how naughty or how cute George can be.
So, Stourbridge Station, the best station in the world ever now?
We won the World Cup of Stations,
You
yes.
did, and you beat Glasgow, which kind of makes me, as an Edinburgh resident, quite happy.
Well, we came second the previous year, and then we were very fortunate to win this year.
How much of that do you think is down to George?
Quite a lot. I like to think that George shows his station off proudly, and it's a beautiful station. So I think a considerable amount was down to George's expertise at campaigning.
Yeah, so now we've done an obscure introduction. Of course, everybody knows it's George the station cat. We told you in the introduction. Yes, Simone, station manager, mistress, head of everything that rolls past the platforms.
Don't tell George that.
And George the station cat, who's, of course, actually in charge.
Yes.
How do you get a station cat? You don't just advertise for one, do you?
George most certainly chose us, definitely. So George had a home not very far from the station, and he chose to just keep turning up every day. And Ewan, the one supervisor, let him in the office one day, and there you have it. A love affair blossomed between the two of them. And when Ewan was going home quite late at night after his shift, if George was still there, he'd carry George home down to his proper house. And when his owners were emigrating, they were taking their cats with them, but they'd realised that George had formed quite a bond with Ewan. Mm-hmm. So they spoke with Ewan, and Ewan had quite readily agreed to adopt George, and the rest is history.
That's really loving the fact that you have a cat and then realise that the cat's life will be better with someone else.
It's very, very unselfish, and I do keep in contact with his previous parents or his previous mother, and I'm forever saying thank you for letting us have George, letting Ewan adopt George, and just enriching all of our lives, really, because had she not done that, we wouldn't be where we are now with George.
Who's this we?
The entire nation who love George. There you go.
He's a well-known cat.
He is, yeah.
So, yeah, we've kind of put like great big bits of signposts in the story there of he's now well-loved and known around the world. He moved in to the station with Ewan, and he found the station, but we've missed out some great big gaps there. How does he go from just walking into the station one day to creating so much love that it becomes his station?
Ewan loves cats. Ian's been on the railway over 50 years now, and at some of the previous locations or stations that he's worked, they've had cats. They've had station cats previously, and he has his own cat at home. She's quite elderly now, and he just absolutely fell in love with George. And because as soon as George knows that there's somewhere nice to sleep and there's Treatos in abundance, then he's going to keep coming back every day, and that's what he did.
So how long between him turning up for the first time and becoming adopted?
That was about 18 months.
Did George decide long before that he'd found his place?
George would never admit that. He would just say that he came to rule.
So how much of an institution is he? I mean, no, actually, no, let's backtrack one there. How popular is the station itself?
It's quite popular because we have the pre-metro class 139 that runs down to the town. We do get a lot of visitors that come to have a look at it. It's one of the busiest stations along the line. Pre-COVID, footfall of well over 1 million.
Yeah, and that you've got the Class 139, which I have to be fair, I nerded out before I hit the record button. Otherwise, this would have turned into a trains podcast. But it is the tiniest, cutest minibus on train tracks that you have ever seen. But it's like a service every 10 minutes, so it's a really frequent service. You must have a lot of people flowing through the station.
We do, yeah. But numbers are just starting to get back to pre-COVID. Well, not quite pre-COVID, but we're certainly building up customers again, which is nice.
So does that mean George has relationships with, I want to say frequent flyers? It's not. There isn't a frequent flyer equivalent for train, is there? Season ticket holders. I suppose that's the best you can get.
Yeah. So, for example, with George's Facebook, there was a gentleman that used the station who set George up on Facebook. And that was, I think, either just when I came as station manager or just prior to that. So I was obviously posting every day onto the page, and the gentleman very kindly made me an admin. And it's just, this is where it's all just spiraled from.
You have Twitter, the Instagram, and George just shows up, like clockwork every day.
Yeah.
Being there. So you've got the relationships there. What about with other customers? Like, do they all bring him treats? Do they know to feed him or not? How does he handle that, and how do you handle that? And sort of.
Yeah. So George, people don't generally tend to feed George as such, but he is very fortunate in the fact that people do like to bring him treats. We also get lots of gifts through the post for George as well, which is lovely. Quite often when people contact us, I'm like, George is well provided for, and it's quite often, it's nice if that gift could be donated in George's name to a local charity. But he likes to sit on the counter, and people fuss him as they come by. We have regular. So the reason I started George's Twitter accounts was when we went into lockdown. I was just aware that people who saw George every day were either furloughed or working from home, so they wouldn't get to see him. So I thought, well, he's on Facebook, I'll pop him on Twitter as well, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal.
So during that lockdown, what happened to the station? Was the station shuttered? Did you carry on?
No. We were operational as normal. So we all came to work. For myself, business as usual. We had a slight reduction in hours for the staff to try and make sure that they could be at home as much as and somewhere in. I wouldn't say safer environment, because we took so many measures to keep them safe, but we have Schedule 17, and quite often, in order to raise the staffing levels, the ticket offices are open longer than Schedule 17 hours, so we were allowing them to go home early, so just to be with their families. Yeah.
George lives at the station, doesn't he? Doesn't go home with Ian every night.
Yeah, no. He has his own bedroom with 3 beds in it, and but he tends to prefer the box full of toilet tissue. So,
and now cat owners all over the world are going, of course he does.
Of course he does. Yeah,
no, because I was just wondering if the station had shuttered, what would have happened to him? Is it no? He's just going to carry on there.
Yeah, so if the station had shut, then George would have gone home with Ian, which is where he goes for Christmas Day and Boxing Day. He goes home for turkey roast dinner with Ian.
What about round the station? Because, if he was on a farm, my inclination would be like, he's a working cat. He would go out, he would be mousing, he'd be ratting, runting. Mm-hmm. Is there much call for that at a station?
We did have to remove a present that he brought today.
How delicate. I mean, is that one off? Is it something that happens?
I'm expecting him to bring a fallow deer in one day. He'd give it a good try. He does catch a lot of mice. Obviously, being in railway, we have railway embankments. Behind the station, there's a bit of a wooded area that he likes to have a meander on down on his patrols. And yes, he does bring mice back. Pigeons. Yeah, we all remember the whole pigeon incident where, I didn't realise that pigeons had quite so many feathers.
Oh dear, what did he do?
Well, where he likes to go and put objects is where my office is. There's a set of stairs to go up, and he likes to sit underneath the landing there. And as I walked around the corner, I was just met by an absolute snowstorm of feathers and one very happy looking cat until I took the pigeon off him. Yeah, and then he got marched in. Yeah, I marched him inside for a disciplinary hearing.
Is he actually employed?
Yeah, he has his own name badge.
Oh, well, if you got a name badge, then you're quite definitely, yes. Job title?
Senior mouse catcher.
Do you have a junior mouse catcher?
Not yet. No, I say yet. And if my boss
Yes.
listens to this, he will be cringing.
Ian suddenly realising that he has another job coming up in this near future when he leaves the station.
Yeah.
Have you been at other stations with cats?
No.
You know, when you come up to a station and it's like, oh, we have a cat, is it just the most natural thing, or are there rules and regulations? Because, you know, in some area, you know, there are trains going past. It can be a dangerous environment.
So we're quite fortunate because the way the station is, the ticket office, etc., is downstairs. So you then have a long subway, and then you have stairs that go up onto the platform. George will very rarely go upstairs onto the platform. Although that said, he has been caught meandering up and down the platforms when it's quieter late in the year. It's more in the summer evenings. But he very rarely goes up onto the platform.
Right, so he has his safe space.
Yes, definitely. Yes, yeah.
What's it been like reading those reactions? Because there must be, like, you know, there's reactions every single day, but it must become part of the fabric of the station staff and yourself.
Yeah, it's lovely. It is so lovely, and I think, you know, it's sort of, personally for myself, it's kept me going through the pandemic, because I've worked every day and I've worked exceptionally long hours, and it's just really nice. People are so kind. You know, it's very rare that we will get any kind of negativity or anything like that, and it's I can't put it into words. It's just really endearing, and people are just so kind. They really are, and that's what I try to do with this page, to just, you know, everything's going to be okay. You know, life is scary, the world is a scary place, but, you know, together we can all get through it, and we can get through it, and then also show a little bit of railway life and just how naughty or how cute George can be.
I love the idea that he's helped you through the lockdown period.
Oh, definitely. You know, I've met so many nice people, or engaged with so many nice people through George's Twitter. Like, for example, Stumpy Cat. So Stumpy Cat started photoshopping pictures of George. So every time George says good morning, Stumpy Cat will put a photoshopped image of George, and then some lovely little pun or something to go with it. And then of an evening when George says goodnight, Stumpy Cat then puts a lovely little quote with it. So I've become very, very good friends with the person behind Stumpy Cat, to the point where we're in contact every day. So her name is Harriet. So we put 2 books together for George, raising money for charity. And she's also helped me publish a book for my own artwork, which I'd never envisaged I would do. So it's been great. You know, as I say, it's allowed me to meet some really, really smashing people.
Do you think George knows that?
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. I always kiss him and say thank you. Not that he appreciates that, of course.
I mean, we've talked around him, but and his role and his impact and everything. But what kind of cat is George?
He's lovely. He is so lovely. So I've always been quite respectful of George. You know, I respect the fact that he's not my own cat. So, you know, it's only recently where I will pick him up. I will handle him. To the point where now he chooses to come up in my office and tries to sit on my lap. So it's about building a relationship and not going straight in and like trying to grab him and manhandle him and things like that. But He's lovely. He's so cheeky. He is exceptionally cheeky, very, very affectionate, and very, very hungry. Always hungry.
Now, is he actually hungry, or is he just hoping?
Probably a bit like me, to be fair.
That's a good dodge of the answer, so I shall just move on there rapidly as well.
Yeah.
I do see this little tiny cuddly dog in many of the pictures as well.
So the little dog is a new addition. Somebody had left it at the station. We found it on the stairs, abandoned. So I'm hoping that they'll come back and get it. So,
but for the moment, looks like George is sleeping with it, and almost, just found something I can cuddle.
He's looking after it, yeah. So he has he has a friend. We have Stunt George.
Okay, now do tell. This sounds fun.
So many years ago, we have the Rail Staff Awards, which is like a national award. I nominated my team at Stourbridge for a Rail Staff Award, which they got through to the finals, and George was invited too, but of course George couldn't make it because he had to work. So I bought a ginger cat glove puppet so that Stunt George could go to the event, and Stunt George went to the event. He didn't drink, but he was well looked after, and he looked after all the lads that were able to go.
And where's Stunt George now?
So Stunt George sleeps beside George's bed.
Okay, that can't be at all worrying for him at all, just waking up going, there's me.
He's used to it. He's used to our madness.
How different do you think his life is compared to a cat who would just live in a normal home?
He has a lot of freedom, so do other cats. He's very indulged. He's very loved. So we have lots of staff that work there, and so there's always an abundance of people to fleece for food, people who want to stroke him, and in my case, kiss him. So yeah, there's an awful lot of people who worship him. So he thinks. Yeah, I think it's slightly different because the additional attention that he gets.
I have to pause here because I've got one just poking over as well. He's threatening to jump on the board. Come on, Charlie.
Oh.
Like, we can't do a proper recording if you're sitting on the buttons. You will do something silly.
Good, Charlie. Charlie.
This is why you have a station cat and not a signal box cat, I take it.
Oh, look. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Oh, look.
Yeah. Are you going to say anything on the podcast, or are you just going to sit with the pictures?
No, just going to be...
Yeah, there you go. Listener, as you would expect when a cat invades the studio, nothing is said. Just quiet chaos of hiding all the butts.
Definitely.
So I take it, George, you're working in the ticket office and everything. It's just the same sort of getting in the way as a cat when you're typing at a keyboard and doing work in an office or something.
He is pretty good. So we have our clerical advisors who they retail tickets, and then we also have our supervisors who sit at the back of that office. And he doesn't generally tend to harass the clerical advisors, but he does harass the supervisors, and he will try and walk across their keyboards or sit on their paperwork and things like that, as cats do.
So, yes, George, known around the world, steals treats, occasionally goes onto the platforms, has fond memories of a pigeon.
Yes.
I think that covers everything. He sounds gorgeous.
He's a bit of a heart stealer as well. He is such a photogenic cat as well. So we only ever use our mobile devices to take photographs of him. But I absolutely put my hand on my heart and swear he poses. He absolutely poses for photographs. I'm sure of it.
So if people want to have a look at this photography and imaging, where's the best place to follow the adventures of George?
You could certainly have a look on Instagram at George the Station.
But you mentioned a book earlier.
Yes, Harriet's Stumpy Cat. We've published 2 books now. and that's raising money for Stray Cats West Midlands. And we also do a calendar every year, which assists the Samaritans, which is a charity which is dear to our hearts, obviously working within the environment that we do.
And they can find links to them back from the Instagrams and all the usual places as well.
Yeah, or just type George the Cat into Google, and it will come up. He will come up in some shape or form, I'm sure.
Well, when you're known by a single name on Google, that's when you know you've really, really made it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be asking for a pay rise next.
There you are. So is that double the treats or just...
We're in negotiations. His contract's due to be rewritten. So
look, I promised I wasn't going to mention any negotiations about the trains or the stations in this podcast. Okay, it's not that kind of show. We're here for the cats.
Definitely.
One day I might meet him when we go on one of these train journeys, but if not, we can follow him online and everything.
Definitely.
Thank you a lot for sharing George's story with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll watch him online and carry on from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to My Cat's Tale, a Spence Media production. Listen to more tales of our perfect pets at mycatstalepod.com and support us on Patreon.